don't need your voices. We don't have a piano player. We have a volunteer. No one else plays the piano? Okay, let's do it. That humming helps. Sing with me.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marcus Cannon has our invitation today.
Bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, we just humble ourselves as we come to you in prayer today. Lord, thank you for another day in your creation. Thank you for loving us unconditionally. Lord, help us to be good leaders. Thank you for this club, the men and women that are represented in it. Help us to be good leaders, Lord, in our homes, in our workplaces, in our communities. Help our community leaders to do well, to seek you in their wisdom, for your wisdom and guidance in the decisions that they make to represent all of us, both locally and on a national level, Lord. And just we come to you in prayer today. We ask the blessings upon this meal that we've received. Lord, please bless us the nourishment of our bodies to your service. Lord, thank you for those that help prepare it. We ask all these blessings in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Marcus. Terry Dothan, Dothan Rotary, please, sir.
Thanks, President Josh, and dear President Greg, the hiker. Might have to find out what's going on there with the sticks. I think I know, but I guess you're in preparation for the big hike.
I'm going to make an announcement.
Okay, all right, good. Short of the birthday department, but it doesn't mean it's not a big one because it is. Demetrius Logan, July 20th. Couple of anniversaries to celebrate. James Sinkfield and Christina on July 18th. And Wes Grant and Tara on July the 19th. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Happy birthday to Demetrius Logan. We'll come forward now and introduce our guest visiting Rotary.
Thank you, Terry Dustin, for announcing my 21st birthday.
All right.
We're happy to welcome our guests visiting Rotary. When I call your name, please stand for Cindy Bledsoe and Christina Ross, guests of Troy Mountain. Newell McNeil and Presley Parrish, guests of McNeil's, Bruce McNeil's guest, and Mr. Parrish, Mrs. Brad Parrish, Mrs. Parrish, is Brad Parrish, yes. Also, any other guests that I may have missed. We also want to thank Davis Flowers here from the Outlaw Club too. All right, thank you.
Stay in session. Can you please come forward for a fantastic draw?
All right, y'all big spinners, y'all gave 87 points this time. We got 1,600 in the kitty.
Good guy. All right, last four, 6199.
Look at that.
All right. knows what they want.
That must not be working.
Next page.
This way. All right, I got quite a few announcements today. I mentioned last week that we have a date set for the senior citizens luncheon. Just gonna repeat that. Senior citizens luncheon will be December 11th this year. So be sure to put that on your calendars. We also have a date set for the White Elephant Setup. It'll again be tailgating theme and will be on October 23rd, the evening of October 23rd. So be sure to put that on your calendar and try to make it if you can. Past President Greg Hendricks would like to make an announcement.
Not quite. About 5 years ago, I was getting my hair cut, as I try to do from time to time. And the guy mentioned a movie, The Way, and that it had won a lot of awards, just wasn't real popular, but it won a lot of awards. So I bought the movie, and it's a great story. Martin Sheen and his son, Esteban. Anyway, thank you. And it's about a walk across Spain called the El Camino de Santiago. And something about that movie captured me. And then I learned later that Mike Schmidt had done the same thing. So we talked with him. He and his son walked across Spain just before his son got married.
My son just finished that,
No,
walk across Spain, yeah.
wow.
Camino, yeah.
So I decided that a 500-mile, 800-kilometer hike was something I wanted to do. And I wanted to let you guys know I'll be out 8 Mondays, starting the second week in August. But I'm excited about it, been training. This is my gear. They say this takes a lot of weight off your knees and that you need your knees on a walk like that. Ruth, did you have a question?
Insect repellent.
I'm sorry?
Take your insect repellent.
Good idea. El Camino is the way of Santiago. It's the way that St. James path he took, the apostle.
Right.
Remember the sons of Zebedee, James and John? And people have been making this pilgrimage for about 1,000 years. So I'm excited about it. I have formed a Facebook group. If anybody's interested in getting on the group, just let me know. And one of the highlights is 3 of 4 children will be joining me for different parts of the walk. So I'm pretty excited about that. Just wanted to share with you guys.
We expect a report after that to hear how it was.
Sure.
Good luck. All right, James Etheridge also has an announcement today.
Thank you, President Josh. I put a flyer on everybody's table. Last year, we started a mini golf classic at the library. It's a fun night. This year it's on August 19th. It's 21 noters adult night on the 19th. And tickets are $50 each. And they're have 2 adult beverages, 2 beverages of your choice. We'll have also appetizers. And also you get to play mini golf also inside the library. Very cool thing. It's a good way to help the library and do some great things. We're already doing and continue to do those things. And also on Sunday afternoon on the 20th, we have a family fun day. And the tickets are only $5 to bring your children out and play some interior golf inside the library. If they're not have a library card, good time to give them a library card. And we have many things for the children, but we have a lot of things for adults too there at the library. And we still have a few homes that need sponsored. If you're interested in doing that, help us with it. There'll be some tickets for the sponsors, some other things to come in. But anyhow, just contact the library. If you want to contact me, be welcome to that also. Thank you, President Josh. Yes, David.
What is a mocktail?
A mocktail, that is everything except the go juice. So if you, like a pina colada, like a, yes, sir. Yeah. So a lot of people requested that last year. We just had some other soft drinks type things, but they said, well, how about some mocktails? So we're going to have 4 different mocktails this year, and along with beer and wine. And but we appreciate anything you can do to help the library. And I know a lot of you, your children and your grandchildren both have experienced a lot of great things in the library. We're real proud of our director, Chris, and his team there at the library. And so hope you can help us this year. Remember, it's August 19th on a Saturday night for the 21 plus group, and then all families on Sunday afternoon.
Thank you, James. Can I please have Kelly Pollitt, Adam Hall, and Art Solomon, please come forward.
What'd you do wrong?
I don't know, I was gonna ask you what you did.
You probably did it all wrong.
All right, presentation of a Paul Harris Fellow is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for substantial contribution to its humanitarian and educational programs. This honor is named for Rotary's founder, Paul Harris, who started Rotary in 1905. Archie, Kelly, and Adam, it is because of gifts like yours that the Rotary Foundation is able to carry out an array of programs that achieve beneficial changes in our world. We congratulate you and we thank you for your commitment to the programs of the Rotary Foundation. I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join me in recognizing these three as multiple recipients of the Paul Harris Fellow. Kelly +1, and Adam +1. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I will invite Lawrence Johnson to come forward and introduce our speaker for today.
It is my privilege today to introduce to you one of our own, Troy Fountain. I don't know that Troy needs an introduction with this group, but I'm going to give him one anyways, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's my job. So Troy is the current president of the Wiregrass Foundation. He was born and raised in Hueytown and has called the Wiregrass area home for over 20 years. He has a professional background in ministry, consulting, business, sales, and education. Before working at the Wiregrass Foundation, Troy served as the founding pastor of Wiregrass Church in Dothan, a partnership church of North Point Ministries in Atlanta, Georgia. He has also coached and consulted various ministries and organizations to grow and positively portray their organizations in their communities. He also spent 3 years as a public school teacher in Tuscaloosa. Troy graduated from the University of Alabama in 1993 and Dallas Theological Seminary in 2008. He lives in Dothan with his wife, Stacy, and has 4 children, Kate and her husband, Bennett, Mary, Dean, Bess, and Edward. Y'all please welcome Troy Fountain.
All right, guys, thank you all for allowing me to share this with y'all today. Just a quick poll before we dive into this. Raise your hand if you have a child, grandchild, great-grandchild, niece or nephew who grew up in Dothan but lives elsewhere right now. Look around the room. That's a lot of us, and I am there with you. I have 2 that grew up here that no longer live here.
One of the great things about working at the foundation, in addition to being able to partner with a lot of our nonprofits, have a great program called Cat Connect, which not only helps the organizations, helps the leaders of those organizations, the work we get to do with the scene, we get to do a lot of really neat things. But one of the things that I really like about the foundation is that we have the space and the time to think about how to work on things and not just work in things. And what I want to share with you guys today is I think is a problem that is facing our community, it's facing our area, it's facing our state. And it's an area that, even though it's a statewide problem, I don't think that it is going to be solved statewide. I think it's going to be solved locally, one community at a time, even though our state is trying to figure that out, how to do it, across the board. But anyway, what I want to talk to you today is about this reality. Is that according to Forbes magazine, the state of Alabama ranks 47 out of 50, if you're keeping score at home, in retaining college graduates. We raise up our children, we invest in them, we send them off to school, they learn all these wonderful things, and then they go somewhere else. We're not retaining that talent. A word that is commonly used, you probably heard this term, is called brain drain. And oftentimes we're taking some of the best and brightest out of our communities and they're going elsewhere. And this is a problem we have to solve, not just for our state, but for our community, because we know that living here in Dothan, it's not just that they leave the state, they leave our community. They go to Birmingham, they go to Huntsville, and there's lots of reasons for this, but I want to unpack a little bit of that. I'm going to throw a lot of information out there at you guys. I'll go through a lot of slides, but I'm going to go pretty quick, even though I was a pastor for 20 years. Lawrence said I've got 2 hours, but I'm going to try to come in an hour and a half. So obviously, old, pastors out there. But anyway, so why is this? Why are our students and our young people leaving our area? This is, they're going elsewhere to work and they're taking their talent and their resources with them. And then what can we do to solve this problem? The first off is we have to understand the problem and understand how this next generation is thinking. We all, and most of us in this room, Lawrence probably excluded, most of us grew up with this idea is that where I want to work determines where I live. So if I want a certain type of career, a certain type of job, I have to find that first, and I'll go to wherever that job is, and then I'll live there. The new way of thinking is that young people are determining where they want to live first, and then they're figuring out what their job is going to be. And if any of you guys own a business or working, hiring any of your businesses, you know good well that talent is hard to find. The employee has the advantage right now in terms of where they want to live, and they are taking full advantage of that. So where do I want to live next is really becoming is the starting question for what do I want to do next. They're determining where they want to live first. And with that thought in mind, I believe that Dothan is well positioned to be the answer to the question of where do I want to live next. I believe that. I believe many of you think that. The problem is we've got to figure out how to get them to believe that. Smaller communities have an extraordinary opportunity right now more than ever. Young and professional families don't have to necessarily be tethered to a location. So it's not just about where am I going to live, I'll work there. They can live anywhere and work anywhere. The pandemic showed us remote work is a thing. I don't know that it'll be as much as it was then, but it is definitely not going away. Both of my daughters who graduated college live in Birmingham, but both work remotely. They could live wherever they wanted to, but they just chose to live in Birmingham. So how do communities, how does Dothan position itself as an option for these young families who are considering their next move? And the way we need to do that is we need to provide attractional opportunities, which I think we're doing with what we're doing downtown and so many other efforts. But it's not just that if we do them, we have to make those things known. We have to publish those things. We have to tell our story to the surrounding areas and to our children and grandchildren who have left and live elsewhere. So quickly, we're going to go look at 3 trends and the 2 generations. The 2 generations, if you're familiar with the lingo, are millennials and Gen Z. We'll look at those in just a minute. Those are the 2 generations that we're looking at because they're in this target demographic. The trend number 1 is small is the new big. People are leaving big cities for smaller communities. And I bet we could all probably name some of the main reasons why, but the reality is it's happening. Nearly 5 million Americans have moved since 2020 because of remote work opportunities. So it's not just the desire, the opportunities there. And among the 20 largest metropolitan areas in our country, over 900,000 people have moved in the past few years. That's 1 million people transitioning out of larger communities into smaller communities. And we, as our community, we in Dothan, we've got to figure out how we're going to take advantage of that. How are we going to leverage that? 43%. I know so many of you would love to leave Dothan and live in California, but ironically enough, 43% of California residents who can work remotely, in other words, have the option. Almost half of them are considering leaving California. The nation's trend is changing the nation's economic geography. You guys know this. The southeastern part of the United States is growing. And again, how can we take advantage and leverage that? You may not have known this. The top ranked city for move-ins in 2021 was Sarasota, Florida. Population 54,000. That's like 2/3 the size of Denver. We are not too small to be getting these workers. We are not too small to be an attractional opportunity for the next generation. So the trend line in that is people no longer have to sacrifice their quality of life to be close to their work. We're going to talk more about quality of life in a minute. What does that mean when people say quality of life? The next trend is, this is very different, is that loneliness is becoming a health epidemic. Loneliness. I got to put my glasses on because I'm no longer a part of this generation. But the U.S. Health Resources and Services said loneliness is now an epidemic. It is an epidemic. An epidemic means lots of people are experiencing that people aren't participating in social groups. And to me, that's one of the powers of Rotary and what we do here each and every week. They have fewer friends. They have strained relationships. Cigna, which is an insurance company, which collects this data, found that 46% of Americans felt alone. The Surgeon General said that in his many years of caring for patients, that the most common condition he saw was not heart conditions or diabetes, but it was loneliness. This is something that's not talked about a lot, but it is a very real thing. And in the book, The Lonely Century, they equate loneliness from a health standpoint as comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day and is worse than obesity, and is also strongly associated with cognitive decline. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't grow up thinking when I grow up, I want to have heart disease, be obese, and forget everything. Those weren't my life goals. And those are none of our life goals. Yet there's a reality that there's many people in these younger generations that are on this path. And I believe that Dothan is well positioned also to be a solution to that problem. The trend line is people are lonely and longing for community, a place where they can know others and are known. And then again, that is something that I think Dothan can leverage. And our community does a great job of this. Groups like Rotary, we just don't have Rotary, we have Rotaries, we have Rotaract, we have Outlaw Rotaries, which I still don't know what they do. Rob Banks, where Davis, you here, what do y'all do? It's just outlaw things. Yeah, the fact that you're a part of it confirms all of that. That is for sure. But that in and of itself, we have our community is thriving with great opportunities for people to get connect, be in community, and to fight the very problem that our nation is facing. That's a story we have to tell. We have to continue to do better at that. Trend number 3 is America's population is shrinking. And I did not realize this until I started looking into this, but especially in the workforce, there's a mass exodus of baby boomers from the workforce. We have the lowest labor participation rate we have had in years, and there is a decline in the rate of births. This is not a problem that's getting better. It's a problem that's only going to get worse. And so if you have a business in here, again, if you're trying to recruit talent for your organization, a shrinking population across our country is going to create a war for talent. This is not something that as a community we can just put off until later. How many of you own a business that you need good help right now? Or work with an organization? Many of you. And that is a problem that is prevalent. Talk to Matt Parker at the Chamber, and they'll tell you that's one of the biggest issues that they face. And it's not going to get better. So we as a community have to figure out how can we address this problem now. So in summation of that, small is the new big, loneliness is a health epidemic, and America's population is shrinking. Who's ready to go throw a party right now? That's all good news, right? The good news is that we're aware of it. And the opportunity is we get the chance to leverage it. And who are we leveraging it for? When we look at the next generation, we're talking about millennials and Generation Z. And you can find where you are on this. I'm slap in the middle of Gen X, depending on where you're at on that. But 83 to 2015 are roughly comprises those two generations. Here's a sobering statistic. By 2025, that's 2 years from right now, millennials and Gen Z will make up 70% of the workforce. Millennials, when we look at them, they are now the largest demographic as of 2016. In a few years, they're taking over, which means they'll be in the point leadership of most of our organizations and our businesses. Millennials were the first generation that grew up with cell phones. They didn't need us adults to get information. They could broadcast their every thought or emotion. They would learn more from a phone than they would their classroom. And they would use their phone instead of a watch, camera, calendar, alarm, clock, roadmap, or board game. My kids do not know how to read a map. Well, my son does. He's an Eagle Scout, Boy Scouts, great thing. My daughters, no clue. They just punch it in their phone and follow the little blue line. And the reality is it works, right? It works. They don't need 90% of the things that we had growing up. The things that shape millennials, they grew up in a pretty healthy economy and they entered adulthood feeling confident. And I want you to pay attention to these because we're going to contrast it to Gen Z. They grew up in a protective culture with parents who were obsessed with their safety. The helicopter parents, everybody gets a trophy. That affirming culture to build a high self-esteem. And they grew up with options. If you've ever heard of the term FOMO, fear of missing out, really came to life with millennials. Because not only did they have a lot of freedom to do things, they were also very aware of all the things there were to do and who was doing it. So it was this constant tension of, I know things are happening, they're happening without me, I need to be there. What do millennials bring to our community or to any community they're a part of? They're smart, they know technology, they grew up with it, they have a deep love of family. I think they're actually revolting against boomers and Gen Zers who, treated divorce like something on the shelf you could just get and grab anytime you wanted it. Millennials are actually going against that, which I think is great. They have optimism, they have confidence. They're very aware of the influence they have and the power they have as a generation, and they have a strong desire of community. Generation Z, same target we're going after. They have a very different experience growing up. They're called screenagers, Generation Zoom, Coronials, or Homelanders. They're the most overwhelmed and anxious generation to date. They just didn't learn about cell phones growing up. They've never known life without them. They are very entrepreneurial. They can start a business, they can start a movement, they can just about do anything all from their phone. They're very entrepreneurial, and they're the most entrepreneurial generation to date. Contrasting them with millennials, they wrestle with mental health issues more than ever. They're very aware of national and global tragedies younger than ever. They are able to read about the war in Ukraine like they're there and a part of it, whereas 50 years ago, it would have been a blurb in the newspaper and young people would have never even thought about it. They feel like they're being constantly captured on video and then they're critiqued when posted. They feel like their whole life is an open book. That leads to, fear of what are people saying, what are they seeing? And they're also a part of the pandemic population, probably the generation that was most influenced by the pandemic. According to a 2022 Barno research study, over half of Gen Z say they just expect the worst to happen. Millennials are very optimistic. This youngest generation, now keep in mind, the oldest of this generation, Gen Z, they're 25, 26. They're just now coming onto the scene, and they constantly expect the worst to happen. Another survey says that 48% of Gen Z says they are stressed out all or most of the time. And it's easy for my generation and some of your generations to look and go, what could you possibly have to be stressed about? Yet, it is their reality. And how many times have you said, I'm so grateful that there wasn't Facebook when I was a teenager, right? We jokingly say that, That's a very real tension that this generation lives with. Nearly 3/4, and this is something that's powerful that I think we can leverage. Nearly 3/4 said the pandemic made them more sympathetic toward others, and that they intend to take action to have a positive impact on their communities. They know they're screwed up. They know the world is screwed up. The difference with these guys is they actually want to do something about it, generationally speaking. And that's something that we can take advantage of. It is an energy that wants to make change. We can either fight it or we can guide it. And I think our best opportunity as the generations that come before are to guide the young people into a positive and what we know as a healthy direction. What they want at work, they want accessibility, connection, craving community, acceptance and inclusion, they're craving community, appreciation and respect that's found in community. However, they also want autonomy and independence. What that really means when you read one layer below that, they really don't want people telling them what to do. That's that entrepreneurial spirit in there. They want to be in community. They just don't necessarily want somebody, as my children used to say, to be the boss of them, right? And they're highly adaptable and they're able to change as children of the pandemic. What are they going to contribute? Again, entrepreneurial, tech savvy, they're cause oriented. They want to make that difference. They're very much do it yourself, and they have tremendous empathy. They've gone through a lot, so they're going to be able to show empathy to others. So the trend line is this: if we want the next generation to move to Dothan, if you want your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and your nephews to move to Dothan, we're going to have to create an appealing community with a high quality of life, and then we're going to have to show it to them. We do a great job on a lot of this. We don't do a great job of telling our story. We know it. No one knows it once you get past our community. So when we talk about quality of life, what does that look like? Okay, quality of life can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. When you break it into its basic categories, and I'm going to talk about what we have going for us and where there's opportunity. When you look at quality of life, everybody wants economic opportunity. That is a job, to have resources. They want to live in a place that's not so expensive. They can actually afford to do things. They want to have the resources to do them. They want stuff to do. They want a lifestyle, a salary. A high salary is not as important to this generation as our experiences and being able to do things. They want enough money to do the things, but they're not looking to build wealth the way previous generations have. And then they want purpose. They want a reason to live that's bigger than themselves at the end of the day. So when we break those down, looking at it through the lens of our community, we look at economic opportunity. We have jobs, we have a great cost of living, and we have an opportunity for upward mobility. Our community leaders and our chamber, Matt Parker, Culture Curitan, and those teams, those guys do an amazing job. We really have more jobs here and more jobs coming than probably we have the workforce to fill. Every time I hear Matt Parker talk about all the things that are coming to Dothan, this is going to be 100 jobs, this will be 200, this will be 40 jobs. Who? Everybody I know is already looking for employees, and we're bringing more jobs in. Like, how are we going to make that happen? There's plenty of opportunity in Dothan, and all of those opportunities. When you look at what's happening with Hudson Alpha downtown, that's an incredible opportunity, and an opportunity for upward mobility for this next generation. Stuff to do. You heard the mayor in here a couple of weeks ago talking about all the amazing things that are going to be happening downtown with new theaters, arenas, downtown opportunities. We have a new downtown development opening up Wednesdays for open house for living. There's a lot of really great stuff to do in Dothan, and a whole lot more coming up on the horizon. And our outdoor recreation is really is incomparable to so many other communities. And those are, again, stories we've got to do a better job telling. But I think our city is doing a really good job at these first two, economic opportunity and stuff to do. And then we got to look at purpose. I think our community does a good job of this as well. We're one of the most volunteer-friendly communities that I've ever been a part of. When you've been in church world, most of you know that churches run on volunteers. And it's always been something that has just been amazing to me to see how this community volunteers, not just in their churches, But at the foundation, we get to work with a lot of nonprofits. The amount of people that volunteer for our nonprofits, you really get to have a community impact. You get to have purpose in your career, and you get to have manageable problems. If you move to a city like Atlanta and you try to make a difference in, work in a soup kitchen, this is for example, you can feel like you're moving the needle, but it's so massive, it's hard to see. You can come serve in Dothan and you can see the difference that you're making almost instantly. It's manageable, something you can get your arms around. And that is very, very, very important. And we have a tremendous group of nonprofits who do great work in our community. And it's easy to see, wow, we are moving the needle. And that is very important to this next generation. So when we think about that, James, I'm almost ready there. In terms of what we're doing, he's about to cut my mic because I'm going to play a video for you. What I want to show and share with you is not the solution. It is a next step towards a piece of the solution.
Urging young adults to come back and make a difference. Welcome to Dothan, Alabama.
Growing up in Dothan shaped who I am today. It taught me the sense of community and giving back.
And Dothan is a special place in my heart. Even as I've moved away from college, traveled to expand further studies, I knew that I wanted to come home to choose a place that raised me.
Dothan is calling on young adults who have spread their wings and flown to new horizons. We invite you to return for a transformative weekend. Passion and skills can help tackle the issues in the community and help fill in the gaps. Imagine the power of minds reunited, the energy of ideas colliding, and the dedication to create lasting change. The Dothan Alumni Cohort Weekend is your chance to reignite that spark and give back to the city that gave you so much. From engaging youth in the arts to equipping our next generation of leaders, from eradicating food insecurity to empowering our local nonprofits, there are countless ways for you to make a difference.
The Dothan Alumni Cohort Weekend is not just about addressing community issues. It's about reconnecting our young adults and tapping into the drive and creativity to build a stronger future.
Right now in Dothan, we are the right people, the right place, and the right time, and we believe in the power of collaboration. By bringing together our talented young adults from Dothan, we can amplify our impact with long-lasting change.
Being a part of the Dothan Alumni Cohort Weekend will be an amazing experience. You'll feel a sense of belonging as you and your peers take the time to help shape the city that shaped you.
And it's inspiring to see so many familiar faces come together for a shared purpose. The connections made and the impact had will be unforgettable.
This is your call to action. Return to Dothan for the Dothan Alumni Cohort Weekend. Reconnect with old friends, meet new ones, and work together to create a brighter future for our city. Join us for a weekend of connection, collaboration, and community. Help us fill in the gaps for our area. Space is very limited. Reserve your spot now.
Give a shout out to Evergreen for that. Evergreen, yeah, they did a great job with that. So that's what I want to share with you this morning, and I'm done most of my talking up to now. The explanation of this is pretty straightforward. The Dothan Alumni Cohort is a group founded on the mission of leveraging young adults from the Dothan area to use their time, talents, and experiences learned from living in other communities to help solve problems and issues in their hometown. We actually go back on that. Essentially, it's called the Dothan Alumni Cohort because we targeted alumni from Dothan area high schools who live elsewhere to try to take advantage of what they've learned in these other communities to come back here and use their knowledge of having grown up here, what they've learned in other communities to help us tackle some problems and issues. We're really trying to lean into their desire to make a difference, to be an agent of change, and to move the needle in their community. So we're really leaning into that desire that they have. So what exactly is DAC? The Dothan Rotary Cohort is a weekend event where attendees will bring new ideas to fill in the gaps on the issues facing our community. The weekend will consist of work sessions, social gatherings, and community learning. There's a local DAC board, which means this old guy wasn't the person who thought up of all this. Christina Ross, who's here, who works in our office, she's in the back here, Christina. She's been running point on this project. She just really loves getting in front of people, so that's why I'm in here with you today. Then we have a group of young people like Lawrence back here who are really helping us think through all this. So it's not the old guy making all this happen. We provide the structure and they're making it happen. And their ages are comprised between 25 and 35 years old who live locally. That's our board. I'll explain that in just a moment. And they are also the hosts and the guides for the weekend. So who attends the event? If you're on social media and saw this at all, we sent out 100 boxes to Dothan alumni who were between the ages of 25 and 35. These boxes had basically Dothan swag out. KBC's cookbook, t-shirts, coffee mugs, things from local businesses, and it completely exceeded our expectations on the response. We sent out 100 boxes, invitations, hoping that we would get 12 to come be a part of the weekend. We sent them out this past week. We already have 20 signed up, and there's already a waiting list. So we're already actively planning the weekend. The first one is going to be August 11th, 12th, 13th. Just so you know, we're going to be shooting for another one based on the response. There's actually a waiting list to be a part of future weekend, which is pretty cool. Again, they're the age of 25 to 35. They went to Dothan High School, and we got this list of candidates really through, hey, who do you know? Hey, who do you know? Real scientific. But anyway, that's how we came up with those 100 names. And by the way, it's really hard to find people's address. Everybody knows everyone's email and cell phone. No one knows where anybody lives anymore because we don't really communicate that way. That was fascinating. But why the ages 25 to 35? This is important, I think, is capturing those two generations. This age group is targeted because we want to share the story of Dothan as they are hitting big transitions in life. We want to share Dothan's story as they are hitting big transitions in life. Meaning, they're about to get married, or they're about to have their first children, or they're about to send their children off to school. You know, we learned in church world that those big life events, people take stock and reevaluate. If they're going to move, that's when they're going to do it, during one of those three life phases. We did not target college graduates. I'm kind of a believer that you need to go see a little bit of the world before you come back home. Not everybody wants to do that, but I do think that is helpful. And we have some great state programs who are targeting college graduates. So this is what we're doing. Life transitions are often at a time where people evaluate where they live. So that's why we're hitting this group. What will they do that weekend? They're going to be presented with a problem or an issue facing the community. This first go round, because we want to be sure we cover our bases. The local 25 to 35-year-old group, our advisory board, chose the problem of how do we assimilate young adults into our community? If this works, we need to know how we're going to assimilate. Other potential projects have been, how do we get some of our urban farming, like MKB's Garden, how do we get that produce into our area restaurants? How do we develop the next generation of leadership? These are some of the problems that have been floated out there, and we'll develop those as we go along through talking with our city organizations and our nonprofits. This group's going to function as a think tank to work on solutions. That's why they are here. While they are here, we're going to sell the mess out of them on the Dothan. They're going to walk away knowing the true story and the future of Dothan, and not what they remember in high school. Most of us, when we're in high school, we're ready to shake the dust off our feet. We're ready to move on. We're ready to go forward. But here's the reality. With everything that's going on downtown and all the different projects that are happening in our community, my second oldest daughter just graduated college. When she was in high school, none of those things were even on the radar or being talked about. Dothan is moving in a great direction, and we got to tell that story. This weekend will be that opportunity. The two goals for the weekend, I'm about to wrap it up. We want to leverage outside experience with homegrown knowledge to solve problems. And we want to show our Dothan, or show our alumni the Dothan that is and is to come. Ernest Hemingway had a great quote that says, "You never write about a place until you're away from it, because that gives you perspective." That's what Dothan Alumni Cohort is all about. That's what we're trying to do. Ultimately, I want to be a part of creating a community my children and grandchildren want to come back to. I have a lot of conversations with many of you. You want to do the same thing. This is not the solution, but it is a step forward to find a solution. So that is it. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Not question, but comment. First of all, your board is made up of, 35, 25 to 35.
Correct.
I commend you for the work that's being done. I would suggest that you bring in a few seasoned people to work with the board, because I've been 35 and 25. I'm now 95. I can tell you a lot about what goes on in the minds of, not that they're not smart, they're intelligent, but they haven't lived the life, the total life yet. They're still struggling to find themselves.
Yes.
Bring in some people with the dynamics of how to live in a community. What does the community say to you? What part do you play in the community? What contributions can you make to the community? Not self-centered, but community-centered.
Absolutely. No, that's a great thought. And I failed to mention this part. As a part of the weekend, they will be hearing from seasoned people with the people that are here. So that will be a part. I didn't say that.
Yeah,
But,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah, but no,
Don't
thank
leave
you.
out the old folks.
Yes, sir, Judge?
What percentage of Dothan and Houston County has 5G broadband today?
I have no idea.
That's the most important question facing our community today.
Yep.
You premise this group of people having cell phones. It is the engine of change. And until we get 5G and broadband on a vast scale, we cannot attract these people.
I couldn't agree with you more. The reality is there's a lot of money, state money, as you well know, going into rural broadband access, different efforts like that. But that's where I would encourage you, Judge, and many of you in this room who have the leverage and the influence and the resources to help make that happen. I mean, this is not a, one of my favorite sayings when I was a pastor at Wiregrass, somebody would call me up, a church member, and say, "I heard about so-and-so, they're having a hard time, they need some groceries. I think the church needs to do something." And I would say, "I agree, you're the church, go do it." And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of our problems in this community, in that regard, for sure. But you're exactly right. Yes, Walter.
Are y'all still seeking sponsorship, or are y'all sold out?
I was gonna wrap up that, but I'll go ahead and say now, yes. So this first event has been sponsored by the Wiregrass Foundation. We have the resources to be able to make that happen. We're already seeking sponsors for our next cohort, which will probably be in November, is what we're gunning for. We still have some dates we have to work through on that. But absolutely, if you're interested in being a part of this, there's a sheet, and we have some more sheets back there at Walter's table. If you're interested in being a part of this is a great opportunity to get in front of potential talent if you're in a business that needs to recruit folks. These are people who know our area.
Troy, do you have a approximate number of people that fall in this demographic that do live elsewhere?
I have no idea. A bunch. Yeah, there's a bunch. I know that's not a real scientific term. But yes, there's a bunch of them, and there's a new crop of them every year. And you all know them. They're your children. Oh, I don't want all of my children back, but I want some of them. When you got 4, that just might be too many. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
One thing is, relates to creating more artificial intelligence and build robots to do work for us and all that. What effect is that having on this base group?
What's interesting and what little reading I've done, he was asking about how is AI influencing the job market. I think when all of this stuff first hit, there was a big concern that robots were going to take away the blue collar jobs. And then you needed people to work on the robots. And sometimes that has not played out to the degree I think we thought. I think AI is going to have a bigger impact on white collar jobs. people who do writing, copy, even lawyers. I mean, you can go on right now to a lot of these websites that have the AI capacity, like ChatGPT, and say, I need a will for a 47-year-old man living in the state of Alabama, married with 2 children. It'll print it, sign it, get it notarized, and you're golden. You don't have to pay lawyers to do that anymore. Now, a lawyer would argue differently, which they're probably right, but at the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of white-collar jobs that are probably more dangerous. That's why I'm excited about projects like Hudson Alpha and things like that, research, and reinforcing our a computer can't throw a peanut.
He can tell you some suggestions on how though.
Yes, it is not short on suggestions. You are exactly right. But I don't know a whole lot about that world, but that's just what I've come across. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you, Troy, and thank you for all the hard work that you and your group do to make our community better. A couple things you said that kind of stood out to me. I wanted to, looking through a Dothan Rotary Club lens, you said that millennials have a desire for community and Gen Z want to make a positive impact on their community. So that's a challenge to all of us to try to tap into that and attract some of these folks to contribute in our club. So I think you're 100% spot on. Next week's program, we're going to have Congressman Barry Moore with us. So looking forward to that. Just a reminder, we have a board meeting immediately following this meeting. And thank you to all the guests that are here today. And thank you for those that participated to help make this program possible. With that, will you please stand to recite the four-way test? Other things we think, say, and do.
This is true. It is fair to all concerned.
Have a great week.